Hey guys, my name is Matsumio, and welcome to our episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for the day comes from David, and it is, why hasn't Rainbow Six Siege died like the first Titanfall? Well, I think it's due in part because of a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest ones is that Ubisoft took a bit of a risk by creating this game and actually making it unique. A lot of the times when investors sit down to try to figure out where they want to spend their money, they of course want a big return on their investment. They want to make a profit, and so they look to other successes and try to copy that. Like, hey, all these kids love the Call of Duty, why don't we just make a game that's exactly that and it will sell like hotcakes? Little do they know that almost never works because, of course, the people who want to play Call of Duty are going to continue to play Call of Duty. Probably the best example of this was Medal of Honor. EA was trying to create a COD clone. It had kill streaks, close encounter maps, and the result of it is that it crashed and burned hard. And so I think one of the reasons why this game is doing as well as it is that it is its own unique game. They didn't know going into it if this was going to sell very well. Like, they took a risk because there's nothing else really like that out on the market. I mean, sure, you could make some comparisons to something like Counter-Strike. I mean, it does have that one life. It's all about playing the objective and things like that. But at the end of the day, there isn't anything like Rainbow Six Siege out in the market, and so who knows if it was going to sell very well. The thing is, though, is that they struck gold. There was clearly a desire to have a shooter like this. I think a lot of people enjoy Counter-Strike, but they wanted kind of a more modern spin on it, and of course the destruction doesn't help. And so what we got is Rainbow Six Siege, and I really do think it was because they took that initial risk and didn't just try to create another Call of Duty or Battlefield clone that has allowed it to have this staying power. Another reason why I think it's doing as well as it has is the simple fact that developers have continuously supported this game since the very beginning. If they just pushed this off to the side and said, hey, we're going to work on our next project because that's going to make us more money, then I can almost guarantee that with all the problems that this had at release, that it would have withered away and died. And then on top of that, they also have one of the best DLC policies, especially for first-person shooters. When other big games like Battlefield and Call of Duty have season passes, premium services where you have to spend another $50 to get the full experience, you don't need that with Rainbow Six Siege. You know that you can come back every couple of months to not only experiences the update that they've done to the patches, which has probably changed up the meta, but you also have access to these new operators. And while of course there is going to be some grinding there, like it does require you to spend a lot of time in-game to be able to unlock them, I find that this DLC policy has really gone a long way to not only sustain the player base, but also to allow it to grow as well. I mean, I think there's more people playing now, at least according to that article a couple of months ago, than at the launch of Rainbow Six Siege, which is crazy. And then finally, the game is just simply good. All of these things wouldn't have mattered if the gameplay was terrible. I mean, it doesn't matter how unique your title is, it doesn't matter what your DLC policy is. At the end of the day, if it doesn't have that addictive quality, if it isn't just a good first-person shooter, no one's gonna play it. I can speak from experience and talking with friends. This game just has that I want to play one more round. I want to get better. I want to improve. I want to just enjoy what this game has to offer. And so other than all these other things that we just talked about, at the end of the day, probably the most important thing is that it's just fun. And so while I'm sure we could go on and on for all the nuanced reasons for why Rainbow Six Siege, a multiplayer-only shooter, has succeeded while others haven't, like Titanfall, I really do believe that those are the biggest contributing factors. The next question comes from Matthew, and it is, do you think that they need to fix the mortar spam in Battlefield 1? Yeah, I would agree with this. I think they could do some small, subtle changes to vastly improve the situation that we have right now, especially on a game mode like Rush or Operations. Right now in Operations, especially on certain maps, just turns into chaos where everyone's dying to explosive devices, mainly mortars, because that just really is the most effective way at taking out large clumps of enemies. When you're playing on Argonne Force, for example, it's basically just free kills with the mortar, and so why, of course, wouldn't you take advantage of that? And so one way that DICE could tackle this issue is, first of all, just not allowing players to immediately deploy their mortar when they spawn on in. This was one of the ways that they resolved the issue back in Battlefield 4. When Battlefield 4 released, everyone was able to just plant their mortar and start pummeling people downrange, but then many patches later, they went on in and made the restriction that you had to wait about 30 seconds to a minute before you could use that gadget. this solves a lot of the problems. It gets people to seek out the action. They're not going to want to just twiddle their thumbs for a minute waiting for this gadget to be useful, but also because people die very quickly in Battlefield. Some people don't even make it to the 1 minute mark. It would just lessen the amount of mortars because people aren't even going to get to the point where they can even use the gadget to begin with. Another thing they can do is just simply increasing the time it takes to resupply your ammo. That's it. Right now, it doesn't take long to get more mortar shells, and if they increase that significantly, then of course that would reduce the mortar spam. They have to walk a fine line with this because I don't want the gadget to be worthless. I want every gadget to be viable, but I do agree with you that mortar spam not only is just frustrating, but it's also not very interactive. It's nice that the mortar person does show up on the minimap so you can sort of counter them if you're also in your own mortar, but that doesn't feel all that great. And so I'm right there with you. I do want the gadget to be good, but I also do believe that on certain maps and certain game modes, it can be very frustrating. Let me know what you guys think about this topic, because I'm sure it is pretty divisive. People that love to play as a support class probably realize that the mortars are one of their best assets right now, and of course they don't want to see it nerfed. And so, do you agree that something needs to be done to this gadget? Do you think that it should be changed slightly? Is there a recommendation on how you would adjust this gadget? Let me know down below. The next question comes from Emmanuel, and it is, are you upset that the Rainbow Six Siege announcement in E3 was nothing like the final release we have today? No, not really. I might be in the minority here, but I don't really mind the fact that it doesn't look exactly the same as the E3 trailer. I, just like you, am just as frustrated where all those E3 trailers, though, are not a true representation of what the game is at release. I hate this practice, and Ubisoft is a big culprit of it. You look at Watch Dogs, Division, the E3 presentation, it looks like the best game ever, but when it goes live, the graphics look like hot garbage, or not nowhere near as magnificent as they showed during the trailer. I hate that business policy. It's bad for consumers. It's basically flat out lying, and so I'm right there with you and can sympathize. But at the end of the day, it's a multiplayer game, and I can understand why they may have made the changes that they did. That E3 trailer was a long time ago, and if you actually go back and watch it, yes, the lighting is different. That's probably the biggest thing that you're gonna notice. Things are much more darky. They're darker and moody. But at least gameplay-wise, they're very similar. People are putting up barricades, they're using different gadgets, of course there's the crazy amount of destruction, and while there's subtle differences like the UI doesn't look as polished, yeah, there was the helicopter dropped in, which I would have really liked to be in there, so I guess I'll give you that points. But in general, a multiplayer game is all about the gameplay, and you look back at the map, house layout is practically identical. Like, they didn't do a lot to change it other than the lighting and of course the color of the walls, but that's really about it. And so while I know that some people will bring up the lighting, because I will admit the lighting does look really good, but I'm guessing the reason why they made that change is that if there was a lot of these shadows in these dark areas of the map, that would give a lot of advantages to people who were just sitting in the shadows all the time. You might say that, oh, that would be great gameplay-wise, but I can see where it'd be really frustrating. We already have people complaining when they look in and out of doorways or on the outside of a window where you can't see the enemy. Well, now imagine if you enter into a room and there's just a lot of dark corners that you can't see anyone inside. That could be a problem. That might be the reason why they changed the lighting to what it is right now. And so maybe I'm just a hypocrite and playing favorites because I don't mind it for Siege while I think it's terrible for these other games, but I can see where the developers were coming from, and at the end of the day, Siege is good. Like, it's a great title, and I don't think it's suffered because of those adjustments they made from the trailer to what it is right now. And so while the business practice I think is scummy, I hate the manipulation of those trailers, at the end of the day, I have a hard time getting upset because the game is so good, and it did turn out very well, but of course that is just my 2 cents. The next question comes from Chris, and it is, should DICE add new war stories in the DLC that corresponds with the teams that are added in the multiplayer for Battlefield 1? I would love this, and actually, this could happen because of the way that they've created this single-player content. Because they're war stories, and it's not a huge flushed-out campaign where we're only following one protagonist, it would make sense to have 1 or 2 missions added to a DLC to give us a new experience. The only thing I can think of for why this wouldn't happen, though, is money. I can only imagine that it requires a lot of investment on the part of EA and DICE to create something like this. You need motion capture, actors, different voice actors. You need to hire writers to write out the story, different assets in the game. You need to create new vehicles, new set pieces, and that of course requires a lot of time and investment, and that might not be something that they want to do for the DLC. And so I'm hopeful, because Battlefield 1 would be a perfect game to have something like this because of the way that they've set up war stories. I don't really think it's going to happen. It will be a great surprise if it does, but I'm not really going to hold my breath. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. As always, if you would like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.